Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I didn't see it coming. Not like that. Not in those exact words. We were sitting in the kitchen, just the two of us, eating a quiet dinner of roasted chicken and vegetables. I had made it, like I usually did on weeknights. She barely touched hers, just moved the food around with her fork, pausing between every few bites to glance at her phone. A reel would flash across the screen, something motivational, boss babe, energy, flashy cars, solo trips to Bali. I'd gotten used to that content being a part of her feed. What I wasn't used to was what came next. I feel like, "You're holding me back," she said, almost casually, like she was reading off a horoscope. I set my fork down slowly. "What?" I asked. My voice wasn't sharp or angry, just confused. Caught off guard. She didn't look up from her plate. I feel like I've outgrown this. You. Us. A low hum started in my ears, like the static of a muted television in the next room. I didn't know if it was rage, heartbreak, or just disbelief kicking in. "I've been feeling stuck," she added, brushing her hair behind her ear like she was brushing away accountability. Like I could be doing more if I didn't have to always compromise. I studied her face. She wasn't being cruel, not deliberately. But there was a frightening ease in the way she said it. Like she'd been rehearsing those words in her head for weeks. Maybe months. She didn't stop there. "You're content with small things. A quiet life. Your job. Routine. But I want more. I want to build something bigger than this. I feel like if I don't do it now, I'll regret it forever." That word, content, the way she said it made it sound like an insult. What she didn't say, but made brutally clear, was that I was the thing in the way. That I had become the weight around her ankle, slowing her down as she tried to run towards some undefined more. She picked up her phone again, as if she had just delivered a thought-provoking TED Talk and was now waiting for applause. I didn't respond. Not right away. I just looked around the kitchen, the polished counters I'd installed last spring, the hanging herb rack she insisted we get after watching a Pinterest video, the dining chairs I reupholstered myself when she said she didn't want to waste money on new ones. It hit me like a slow, rising tide. Everything in this house had my fingerprints on it. Every lamp, every bill paid, every late-night meal reheated while she chased clients or fiddled with her website. All me. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just hollow. Like someone had quietly removed all the furniture from inside my chest. "You've outgrown me?" I finally asked. "That what you're saying?" She sighed, like I was making it heavier than it needed to be. "Don't take it like that. I just mean, I have dreams. And I feel like I'm shrinking myself to make this marriage work." I gave a slow nod. Shrinking. That was rich. The woman who hadn't had to worry about a single utility bill in 5 years. The woman who never pumped her own gas because I made sure her tank was full before she left for her morning yoga class. Shrinking? It wasn't just the words. It was the way she didn't flinch when she said them. Like they were facts, not weapons. "Okay," I said simply. She blinked. That startled her, just a bit. "Okay." I stood up from the table, not in a dramatic way, just done. I took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, and set it down. She was still watching me. "You said I'm holding you back?" I said, drying my hands with the dish towel. "I hear you." Her eyes searched mine like she was trying to decide if I was hurt or angry or indifferent. The truth was, I didn't even know yet. But I knew one thing already. She didn't see me as a partner anymore. Not someone she was building with, but someone she had to push past. That was all I needed to start thinking differently. I went to bed early that night. She stayed up watching videos in the living room, phone light flickering against the walls like a lighthouse she hoped would guide her to some bigger life. As I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, something settled quietly inside me. Not rage, not revenge. Resolve. If she truly believed I was holding her back, maybe it was time I gave her what she wanted, and let her see what life looked like without the man who made her feel content. I didn't bring it up the next morning. No cold shoulders, no icy glares. Just silence. Not the tense kind. Not yet. The kind of silence you step into when you realize something sacred has already cracked, and there's no glue in the world strong enough to fix it. She was making her smoothie, reading emails on her phone, multitasking like always. She didn't notice I'd stopped asking if she wanted coffee. Didn't notice that her lunch wasn't packed the way I used to do when she was running late. I waited. Not out of pettiness, but to see if she'd say anything. She didn't. That day, I made a quiet decision. If I was holding her back, then I'd move out of her way. Not leave her, Not yet. Just step aside. Let her run the race she seemed so sure she could win without me pacing beside her. It started small. We had always split the responsibilities, but not evenly. She had the vision, the ambition, the Instagram aesthetic. I had the spreadsheets, the calendar reminders, the actual execution. I used to keep track of her business deadlines, licensing renewals, tax due dates, reminders for supplier follow-ups. That week, I erased them from my synced calendar. I removed myself from the engine room. Let her sail it alone. The first bump came on a Tuesday night. She had promised a boutique delivery by Friday. Problem was, she hadn't ordered the fabric she needed. It normally took 5 days to arrive. She realized it on Wednesday morning. I watched her pacing, muttering, stress building. She glanced at me once as I stirred my coffee. I didn't offer help. I didn't say you usually order that by Monday. I didn't say anything. She didn't ask either. Pride kept her mouth shut. That evening, she tried to fix it. Paid for expedited shipping. Lost money on the order. Missed profit. Still, no conversation about it. But I noticed the frustration in her movements. The sighs. The slamming drawers. She didn't know it yet, but this was her first taste of flying solo. By the weekend, the second wave hit. Her car's check engine light had been on for a week. Usually, I'd take it in while she worked, handle the mechanic, explain the issue, deal with the costs. But this time, when she tossed me the keys with a distracted, "Can you drop it off?" I tossed them right back. "You can handle it." She paused. "Wait, what?" "I've got plans. You said you wanted more independence." Her mouth opened slightly, like she was about to argue. But she didn't. Instead, she huffed and walked off. It was beginning to register. Every task I'd quietly absorbed, groceries, budgeting, syncing our calendars, adjusting her marketing copy, handling social media ads, those started falling to her. At first, it was chaos. The fridge was empty by Wednesday. She forgot to pay our internet bill. She triple-booked herself on a Saturday. Each time, I watched. Not smug. Not superior. Just aware. I had spent so long smoothing every rough edge in our lives that she forgot they even existed. I wasn't punishing her. I was simply obeying the truth she had handed me with that sentence. "You're holding me back." So I stepped back. And as I did, something strange happened. I found stillness. Time. A quiet mind. I started taking walks alone in the evening. Stopped checking her schedule against mine. Read books I hadn't touched in years. Even signed up for a course I'd been putting off, project management certification, just for me. The house changed too. Less buzzing tension. Fewer urgent, "Babe, can you just," interruptions. She started to notice. I saw it in her eyes when she got home late from a supply run she had forgotten to schedule ahead of time. Her voice was clipped. She asked if I could help her proof a proposal before she sent it out. I said I was busy. And I was. I had found a new focus, myself. In the absence of me holding her back, she was starting to learn how heavy things actually were. She always carried herself like she was in control. Smooth hair, tailored outfits, the newest iPhone with 6 different productivity apps, half of which I'd installed for her. But now, I saw it in the small things first. The way she fidgeted with her phone more nervously than usual. The way her makeup stayed untouched on the bathroom counter some mornings. The circles under her eyes. The short, sharp sighs when she thought I couldn't hear. The pressure was mounting, and the cracks were beginning to show. It really started to unravel the night of the networking mixer. She had planned it for weeks, a curated guest list of influencers, boutique vendors, and 2 minor celebs who followed her on social media. It was supposed to be her launch into a new tier, she said. A brand-affirming night, she called it. But when the night came, I didn't offer to help prep the slideshow she'd planned to run on the projector. I didn't check the HDMI settings. Didn't print backup material. Didn't call in a favor from my friend who used to bartend to help with drinks like I usually would. She didn't ask. Not directly. She was trying to prove a point. So I watched from the couch, sipping tea, as she raced around 2 hours before the event, swearing under her breath, calling a print shop in a panic because her color formatting was wrong, texting someone to bring ice because she forgot to pick any up. I left before the guests arrived. Said I had plans. She nodded, cool on the surface, but I caught the way her jaw flexed. I got home around midnight. The house smelled like burnt canapes and perfume. Her heels were off. She was on the couch, hair tied up messily, glass of red wine balanced on her knee. Didn't say anything when I walked in. Just stared at the dark TV screen like it had betrayed her. "How'd it go?" I asked calmly, hanging my coat. "Fine. but I saw it in her eyes. She knew it hadn't. Later that week, she was supposed to pitch a new product line to a local co-op that had shown interest in carrying her brand. She scheduled it without realizing it conflicted with a prior vendor meeting. In the past, I would have flagged the overlap days before. I used to color code her calendar myself. She double-booked. Missed both. When she came home, she slammed the door harder than necessary. I was working in the office, reading through documents for my certification class. "I need help," she muttered. It was barely audible. I looked up. With what? She stood in the hallway for a second too long, like she was choking on the words. Everything's piling up. The schedule. Orders. My client emails are a mess. "I can show you how I used to organize things," I offered. "You'll need to build something sustainable." She blinked. That wasn't what she wanted. She wanted a rescue. What I gave her was strategy. And it wasn't just business that was suffering. She'd always prided herself on owning every room, but at a recent dinner with friends, I watched her shrink slightly under the weight of a conversation she wasn't leading. They asked how the business was going. She gave a tight smile. "Busy." But her friend Rachel, sweet, blunt Rachel, smiled and said, "You look exhausted. You used to seem so energized about all this." That hit harder than it looked. I watched her fingers curl around her wine glass stem a little too tight. She excused herself a few minutes later and didn't return to the table for 10. The next day, she asked if I wanted to grab lunch sometime this week. A small gesture. A test. "I've got training sessions," I replied. "Maybe next week." And I meant it. I wasn't being cold. I was just no longer on call. She was beginning to understand what I had carried. Quietly. Without applause. The phrase she'd said weeks ago now rang like irony every time she glanced at the pile of receipts, the unopened emails, the sticky note she scribbled, "Call IRS," on in all caps. She wasn't soaring. She was stalling. And for the first time, she was realizing that behind all her ambition had been a system. It started with little questions. "Do you still have the contact for that IT guy who fixed the website last year? Did we ever get a renewal notice for the sales tax permit? Hey, when you used to run ads, what was that targeting metric you looked at?" She asked like it was nothing. Offhand. Light. But I heard the shift in her voice. A crack behind the confident mask. She was reaching. Quietly. Subtly. Testing the waters. Trying to see if the man she claimed was holding her back was still willing to be her anchor. And I could have stepped in. Part of me wanted to. That old instinct. The fixer in me. But I had learned something over the last few weeks. Rescue doesn't always help. Sometimes, it prolongs the lesson. So I gave her just enough. "His name's Thomas. Should be in your inbox from that year. Check the state site. You can renew it online. The metric is called lookalike audience. Facebook Ads Manager has it under advanced settings. No warmth. No snark. Just facts." She tried again the next day. This time with a softer edge. "Hey, are we okay?" I looked up from the book I was reading. "We're civil." She blinked. "Civil? You told me I was holding you back," I said simply. "I took you seriously." The room went quiet. She shifted in her seat like the couch had suddenly turned uncomfortable. "That's not what I meant." I raised an eyebrow. "You said you needed space to grow. You said this marriage made you feel like you were shrinking." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she fiddled with the corner of a throw pillow, twisting the seam between her fingers like it held the words she couldn't say out loud. "Do you even care anymore?" she asked finally, her voice lower. Meeker. It hit me. This was the first time in months she wasn't speaking like the boss. She wasn't announcing. She was asking. I closed my book. "I care," I said. "But I'm not going to bleed for someone who's still deciding if they miss me or just miss the help." She looked like she'd been slapped. Not because I was cruel, but because it was true. She had always been used to my devotion being automatic. Unconditional. She thought I was a constant, an emotional utility she could unplug and plug back in whenever convenient. But now, I was a variable, and she didn't know how to solve for that. That night, she stayed up late. I could hear her pacing in the office, her side of the desk a disaster zone of receipts, missed invoices, a to-do list that read more like a confession. In the past, I'd be sitting across from her, fixing it all, absorbing her stress, offering tea, structuring the next 7 days so she could sleep. This time, I stayed in bed. Let her feel it. She needed to. The next morning, she looked tired. No makeup. No tight ponytail. Just sweatpants and a baggy hoodie she hadn't worn since our early days of dating, back when we still shared inside jokes and made ramen at midnight like broke, Happy idiots. She made coffee, then paused in the doorway, holding her mug like a peace offering. I miss us, she said. No fanfare. Just truth. I looked at her for a long second. Not out of anger. Just calculation. I wasn't sure what she meant by us anymore. The version where she smiled at me with gratitude in her eyes. Or the version where she called me dead weight and begged the universe to unleash her potential. Do you miss me? I asked. Or do you miss how easy I made things? She didn't answer, because that answer would say more than she was ready to admit. And I wasn't going to let her skip that reckoning. She hit the wall on a rainy Thursday. It had been building for weeks, the disorganization, the panic buried beneath fake smiles on video calls. The night she stayed up Googling how to read profit and loss statements she used to hand off to me without a second thought. That afternoon, I came home to the sound of her crying in the kitchen. Not the dramatic kind. Not the performative tears she sometimes used when a client ghosted her or when she needed sympathy in a social media caption. This was something else. Quiet. Raw. Her head was in her hands at the table. Papers scattered across the wood like a crime scene, bills, a declined payment notice from her hosting platform, an overdraft warning. I stood there for a moment, not saying a word. She didn't hear me. Or maybe she did and just couldn't face me yet. Eventually, she looked up. Eyes red. Face bare. I messed it all up. I didn't move. Just waited. I missed my quarterly tax estimate, she continued, voice shaking. Didn't budget right. And now the site's down. Everything is a mess. I thought I could do it all. I thought. She cut herself off, wiping her face. I set my bag down slowly, still silent. I need help, she said. I really need you. There it was. Not a demand. Not a manipulation. Not wrapped in ego or branding. Just a woman at the end of the rope she insisted on climbing alone. And I believed her. In that moment, I truly did. But I also knew something else. I couldn't be the man she expected me to be anymore. Not the one who built the scaffold beneath her dreams while she danced on the platform pretending she rose there by herself. I pulled out a chair, sat down across from her. I always wanted to see you win, I said gently. You said I was holding you back, so I let go. What you felt these past few months. That wasn't sabotage. That was reality showing you what I'd been doing behind the scenes. She nodded. No protests. No defensiveness. Just a slow, trembling breath. I didn't realize how much of it was you, she whispered. I thought it was me. My ideas. My effort. But it was you, making everything work. There was something honest in her voice. Something finally real. I miss you, she added. Not just your help. You. The old me would have broken right then. Would have reached across the table, wiped her tears, told her it was okay, and that I'd fix it all. But that man had learned something. Love without respect becomes servitude. And I was done living in the shadows of her ambition. I believe you, I said. And I care. I always will. She looked hopeful for a second. But I can't go back to being your silent support beam. I can't pour into you while I run on empty. She nodded slowly. That hope faded, but it was replaced with something heavier, acceptance. So, is this it? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. But I know I need space. Not to punish you. Just to breathe. To remember who I am when I'm not shrinking for someone else's growth. She didn't fight it. That, more than anything, told me she finally understood. In the days that followed, we moved around each other like shadows. She started taking accountability, setting up a real budget, meeting with a financial advisor, reaching out to a business coach instead of relying on me. I packed a few bags, got an Airbnb across town for a while. Not because I hated her, because I needed clarity that didn't live under the same roof as my disappointment. We still talk. Cautiously. Kindly. Sometimes she sends updates. A new client. A speaking gig. A successful campaign. She doesn't beg me to come back anymore, but I can tell she hopes I will. And maybe someday we'll find our way to a different version of us. But for now, I walk alone. And I walk taller. She once said I was holding her back. But what she didn't see was that I had been the wind beneath her wings the whole time. She just never noticed. Until she tried to fly without me.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.